So far, everything we've talked about in terms of leadership has required the leader to put forth a lot of energy. The leader has to keep helping customers, has to help keep developing employees, has to think about the execution challenges facing the organization, has to be thinking about the bottom line, and all of that is taking a lot of energy out of the leader. One of the things that we know about effective leaders of all kinds from all different walks of life is that they do a good job, maybe not a consistent job, but they do a pretty good job of bringing energy back into themselves. One of the ways they do this is that they really know themselves. They understand their reactions to people, they understand their reactions to the world, and so that allows them to maintain a certain maturity around how they go about their business. They also keep the big picture in mind, and if you can keep the big picture in mind and understand how all these other things are fitting into it, what you'll find is that the details don't bother you so much. Instead of seeing a barrier, you see a speed bump, and it really helps you to move forward. The other thing is that great leaders continue to learn. They know that they need to develop themselves. They need to make sure that their passions are met. They need to know that their own character is constantly being developed in the direction that they need it to go in. Otherwise, they end up very tired and frustrated and feeling like all this effort that they're putting forth isn't actually bringing them back anything themselves. So I can't get into detail on all the stories that we know about great leaders and how they maintain their own energy, but I would like to share a few. Imagine that you're Mother Teresa, and you're on the front lines of poverty and malnutrition in Calcutta. There are no higher stakes than dealing with children who need your help. And for all the decades that she was there, she had doubts. She wasn't sure about her faith, but she was able to manage that stress because she knew that she needed to be a leader for those people. In terms of taking care of yourself, there's another great example from corporate America. Brenda Barnes walked away from being president and CEO of PepsiCo North America because she felt that her family needed her. She took 2 years off, went back to work, and very shortly became CEO of Sara Lee. In terms of knowing yourself, I know of no better example than Matthew Ricard, a man who had a tremendous position in French society and science, and yet who knew himself well enough to make a tremendous change. Here's what he said. The striking individuals with whom I'd crossed paths each had his or her own special genius. I'd have liked to play piano like Glenn Gould or chess like Bobby Fischer, to have Baudelaire's poetic gift, but I did not feel inspired to become what they were at the human level. Despite their artistic, scientific, and intellectual qualities, when it came to altruism, openness to the world, resolve, and joie de vivre, their ability was neither better nor worse than that of any of us. I was inspired through my readings of great figures like Martin Luther King Jr. and Mohandas Gandhi, who by sheer strength of their human qualities were able to inspire others to change their way of being. On the basis of his self-knowledge, on his understanding that he shared those values, he actually quit everything that he had built and became a monk in Tibet. And now he plays an important leadership role in the organization of the Dalai Lama. One of the things we know about great leaders is that they're also great learners. Our colleague Hal Gregerson at INSEAD studies innovation. He was curious to know which of the United States presidents was the best learner of all. And the way he did it was pretty interesting. He examined the inaugural addresses of all of the United States presidents from George Washington onward. What he discovered was that Abraham Lincoln, above all, asked questions in his inaugural address rather than provided answers. He said, who are we as a people? Who do we want to become as a people? Who do we want to be as a nation? And it's interesting that he asked those questions rather than position himself as the answer man when the country was facing so many issues at the time. And I think that most historians would agree that Abraham Lincoln was one of the best presidents that the United States ever had. All great leaders ultimately tap into their own personal energies and passions. Consider the story of Majora Carter. She was a smart kid who grew up in a really tough part of New York City. It's called the South Bronx. She was able to get a scholarship to college, and when she graduated, she could have had lots of different jobs. But instead, because she had energy and passion around helping her neighborhood, she went back to the South Bronx and started Sustainable South Bronx, which was dedicated to creating green spaces and cleaning up vacant lots and making it a much more livable and environmentally healthy place for the people that she knew. She's done a fantastic job and received a huge number of awards and recognition. So basically, all leaders need to recognize that for all the energy that they're putting out, they've got to be getting energy back. They've got to be learning, sustaining themselves, managing their stress, knowing themselves, and revitalizing themselves every step of the way.